This is TWiT.
We are gathered today to talk about rumors, nothing but rumors, but lots of them. The one I thought was most interesting, and I immediately thought of you, Alex Lindsay, because you've been saying Apple should start a bank for a long time. Wall Street Journal says Apple will be teaming up with Goldman Sachs to create a credit card. That's a first step, though.
Shocked. I'm shocked.
Shocked.
Oh, wait.
I think a lot of the stories we're going to see today have to do with Apple trying to make money on subscriptions, to be honest with you. Trying to make more money per customer because hardware sales are slowing. This is an obvious way to do it. Goldman Sachs already has a bank called Marcus, which they created a couple of years ago because their securities trading business wasn't doing quite as well as they'd hoped.
You know, that banking product name makes me think that they hired some eager young go-getter at the age of 28 to bring some fresh ideas to banking. And he said, let's not call it Fidelity Reserve Plus checking and banking. Let's just give it a fun modern name like Marcus.
It is a strange name, isn't it? Marcus is
self-conscious.
like a lot of these online only banks offers a very high rate of savings at 2.25% APR, no fee fixed rate loans. I don't know if you get it's a bank, it's FDIC, I think, so I don't know if you get a checking account or anything like that. Apple making a credit card, I guess, kind of makes sense because right now, if you use your credit card with Apple Pay, the lion's share of the revenue goes to the credit card company, right? Not to Apple. They get a fraction of that. But they'd get it all if it was an Apple credit card. They also, according to the Journal, plan to add some features that will encourage people to use it, like, you know, planning, financial planning, budgeting.
That's the interesting
part. Money
for
management.
Me.
Why is that interesting?
Because what these implementation sounds like it's going to take a page from the Apple Watch and Apple Health book, where you're encouraged to like close your rings by paying off debt or by filling up savings accounts. It'll be almost like that coaching and reward system where, because right now it's so easy. The days go by. I say that as somebody whose tax window is rapidly closing here in Canada. You know, you forget to put money aside. You forget, you know, you have bills that come in. You're traveling. This will just say like you've paid down this much credit. Wouldn't it be great if you paid down this much today? You put away this much savings this week. If you just put away an extra few dollars, and it'll sort of walk people through the process of getting better financial health.
Well, and also, of course, if you want to use those tools, it will incent you to run as many transactions as possible through it, right? Because that way it has perfect knowledge of what you're spending, what you're borrowing,
as long as, like, right now, American Express is really good on iPhone. Like the minute I pay for anything, I get a push notification. I can go there. I can see a list of it, and that's all integrated into the wallet app. But this would have like first party status, and you imagine they would bundle in things like when you use it, you get points that you can redeem at the Apple Store. Would be really interesting if they started full. The only thing I don't like about this is that things like Goldman Sachs, things like that are very regionalized. They're almost like little fiefdoms. They don't really apply globally. And that's been the issue with the Apple iPhone upgrade program as well. And that's why I liked it that Apple partnered with American Express, because it instantly made Apple Pay available in a much wider series of regions, because American Express is effectively their own bank. And I think, yes, this is like the Motorola rocker of this idea to me. It's like we're going to find an integration partner and make like a really bad version of it. And then in 2 or 3 years, Apple realizes, like Alex has been saying, hey, we're sitting on $250 trillion. What if we were our own bank? And then they wouldn't have to do the usurious fees that have a lot of people upset about this deal, because they don't want Apple associated with.
Are there regulatory reasons they don't just step out and do it?
They could put it under FileMaker. Let FileMaker work.
Well, I think that the thing is that there are definitely huge regulatory issues that Apple has to deal with, but they're not any deeper than the FDA.
There are a lot of startups that are online banks now, right?
And the big advantage of doing things that are hard is that it's hard for other people to do them. So if Apple goes through the trouble and uses their scale and uses their ability to do that, it means that they're able to do things that other people will have a hard time following, and it gives them a...
One of the things the Journal says is Apple has contracts with banks that prevent it from making their new card the default in the wallet. Apple risks angering banks whose cards account for the bulk of the transactions running over Apple Pay. So, and of course, all the regulations are national. So before that gets to Canada, they have to have a partner in Canada. I mean, it does get very complicated.
I think that this was a glimmer in Apple's eye when they started Apple Pay. I don't think this is something that they just decided to do because the iPhone sales were going down. I think that
like Apple Pay was a glimmer when they did the first Passbook app, and then they got to Apple Pay.
Yeah, and so I think that this is you couldn't bring this out first because then none of the banks would partner with you. But now that you've partnered, you have all these people using Apple Pay, and the thing is, if the banks took their cards away, we would. Here's the thing right now. If the banks take their card away now, we'll all just jump to the Apple one. Right. Now they have a place for you to go if your bank, because most of us don't give a crap about our bank. Most of us,
I think banks are realizing that it's so easy to change now.
Yeah, and we don't care about them. Because why we don't care is because they don't care about us.
I literally set up a Marcus account with Goldman Sachs in a couple of minutes. Right. And it was incredibly easy, and they made it very simple. I could have I didn't finish it. Yeah. Now I'm getting emails every few minutes. Yeah. Why didn't you finish? Why didn't you finish? You should have finished. You're so close. One of the things the journal says is that Apple and Goldman considered at one point creating a more ambitious financial offering that would provide financial management beyond the credit card. But Apple executives worried that tapping into people's bank accounts would raise privacy concerns,
which they could possibly manage if they were doing it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather trust Apple than Mint.
Yeah,
right.
But the question is, can they actually make this into a profitable service as opposed to a promotional service for themselves? Because unfortunately, the reason why banks keep hitting you with fees and annual membership things is because that's where they make their money from. If they weren't able to hit you with overdraft charges, if they weren't able to make you pay for services that are just moving bits from one place to another, they wouldn't have the sort of profit margins. This is why Wells Fargo got into so much trouble, because they're saying, well, all we got to do is keep getting people to open new accounts. Even when they say no, don't open a new account. Let's open a new account for them and make sure that they don't notice a $40 fee that's being charged to them every single year. So it's as with almost anything that Apple does. The big question will always be, is this something they're doing because they want to have that club in their bag, or is there something where they feel as though they can actually bring something to the marketplace that isn't being done already?
There's no question that the credit cards are valuable, that make money. I mean, you can't fly on an airplane anymore without the airplane trying to, all the flight attendants trying to hawk their airline's credit card at you. It's become,
well, that's the thing. Like, American Express isn't a traditional bank. Like, you don't have an American Express savings and checking account. You don't go to your local American Express.
They actually do have a
deposit
bank.
Your check.
They do have a bank. You can go. There's an American Express bank you can set up if you have an account.
I'm incredibly wrong then.
I think the bank part, I agree with you. The bank part is iffy. The credit card part is not iffy.
Well, and
according to the Wall Street Journal, it'll be a MasterCard. Cardholders will earn 2% cash back. That's a lot. And potentially more on, as you speculated, Renee, Apple gadgets and services.
Yeah. Will people get points towards meals? Sorry, go ahead.
What I'm confused about, though, is this going to be a Goldman Sachs credit card that has Apple benefits, or is this going to be an Apple credit card? Like, who's going to be in charge of my money?
Apple on it.
Is the key in the situation here,
Because I don't want a Goldman credit card, but I would love to have an Apple on my credit card.
Right, because to me, the way it's being described, it sounds like it's a Goldman Sachs credit card, and then you're going to get all these Apple features with it. Not that it's an Apple credit card. So,
I think it's first step too.
Google already did this. I don't know if you remember this, and failed. Google had a credit card tied to your Google Wallet. I had one.
But I think Google's relationship with their users is different than Apple's. I think that's the.
Was that like the Apple Cash, or was that an actual credit card?
No, they had I think it was through Simple. I can't remember who did it, but Google had a credit card, and it would feed from your Google Wallet or into your Google Wallet, and they discontinued that program some years ago. Synchrony, I guess, ran it. So.
But it's everyone's absolutely right. There's so many opportunities to take a brand new approach. Just the idea of having burner credit card numbers is such an actually important thing these days. Whereas one of my banks makes it really incredibly difficult for me to even change my ATM PIN number. because it's basically, I don't know, all run on a DEC PDP-11 with punch tape or something. Whereas other banks
it into stone.
Right, exactly. Whereas there are other banks have services where, gee, I really am interested in a newspapers.com subscription, but if I don't remember to cancel this after a month, I'll get hit with $400 for the entire year prepaid. I'm going to give them a burner credit card number so that I will get an email from them saying, hey, teensy problem, we tried to charge $400 to this credit card and it says this number no longer exists. And then I can actually make the rational decision as opposed to, oh, I guess I'm subscribing to premium for an entire year. But these are the sort of things. And like Renee said, the ability to simply say, I'm terribly irresponsible with my money, but if I had the ability to click a checkbox on my phone and simply say that every time I move money into my account in any way, shape, or form, 5% of it goes into a folder that is not attached to anything until I realize that my electric bill is due in a week, and I already bought my tickets to WWDC, and it's nice. Oh, great! I do have $480. I didn't know that I'd already saved. All these sort of stuff that will make banking more interactive and more. I don't know, just more beyond an electronic version of writing a check. Yeah,
it's more proactive. What you're talking about, which is a great idea, is this something that the finance apps that we have, like Mint, like you mentioned, and you need a budget. This will actually, if this were a feature that worked, you could actually set it up so that. For example, if you spent $500 on some computer-related thing, you could even get a notification that says, hey, you're about to spend more than your monthly budget on this gadget right here. Are you sure you want to do it? And it's notifying you immediately because you just swiped the card, and then you can have just a second to stop yourself and go, do I really need this $500 computer gadget, or maybe I should hold off because I'm trying to save for something? Like the proactive banking in that way sounds like such a great idea to be able to do that.
Interestingly, Apple Pay, at least, Apple doesn't break out Apple Pay as part of its overall services revenue, but analysts have tried to figure it out. This is a graph that was in the Wall Street Journal article from Loop Ventures, and the light blue is other services, the dark blue is Apple Pay, a tiny fraction of the revenue in services that didn't even show up until 2017 and has barely increased since then. I mean, I guess you could say it's doubled every year, but double nothing is nothing. So that surprises me. And one of the things the Journal speculates is this might be a way to get more people to use Apple Pay. Well, and we have to remember that watches were a little part of their revenue as well when they started. So a lot of this stuff takes some time to build up. But I do think that, and Apple is in a different position than the banks are because it sells a lot of things. And so having people have money coming in one side and then loaning it out the other side down the road could be a very virtuous cycle for Apple. And so I think that's Apple's got a lot of reasons to keep this all closed up. If you have a ton of cash, part of the problem with having, $200 billion sitting in the bank,
you got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, you got nothing to do with it. And do you invest it? Do you put it in CDs? I remember in the early days of Microsoft, they were making so much money hand over fist that Bill Gates would just keep opening certificates of deposit at bank after bank because they had all. And I remember reading about this, and their first like CFO comes in and he says, here's all our bank books. Figure this out. And I think it is a problem in corporate governance as you get really big and you have big cash. You got to know what to, that cash could be a moneymaker.
You manage profit to zero like Amazon, and it's all fine.
Yeah. With no profit, no taxes, right?
That's definitely something. That's definitely something that isn't fully appreciated when you have these large tech companies that are famous for their phones or they're famous for their software. One of their biggest products that no one ever sees is the division of the company that's just concerned with investing their money in things that have nothing to do with manufacturing or the pipeline. It really, there's so much going on to make sure that the taps remain open, so to speak.